How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here, and welcome to another bite-sized tutorial for beginners. We're going to go over some of the terminology in Gwent. So Gwent uses several types of words, some tags, some key phrases that mean certain things, but doesn't necessarily do a great job of telling you what these things mean. And although they are going to be implementing a keyword system in the future, we don't know when that is, so I'm going to do this video for now, and I'll tell you, what they mean and why it's important, and how you play with that type of tag and keyword. So before we get going with some of the terminology, I've just got to bring your attention to where the tags are for particular cards in this game. So tags are keywords underneath the name of the card. So this Fireball Trap card has the tag Ambush. This Priestess of Freya has the tag Permadeath. Reaver Scout has no tags. Okay, Doppelhorn Trapper has the Elf and Ambush. Bikovara has Permadeath, etc. And there's several types of keywords which we'll go over in a second. And this is, always under the title of a card, the name of it, whether it's zoomed in or you look at it on the right down here where I'm covering up. Okay, so that's a great place to go to if you want to read whether a card has certain abilities or tags tied to it. Okay, so the first keyword that I want to discuss with you is the Relentless tag. And Relentless means that when it's placed onto the board and played, you can no longer pick it back up. There's several cards in the game which can pick up a unit and replay it. And if it has the Relentless tag, this card cannot be targeted. Once it's on the board, it's stuck on the board. Okay? So let me just go over some of the cards which can possibly bounce this, and you'll see why, what will happen. So one of the common ones for Squirtle is the Blue Mountain Commando. Return a bronze, non-relentless unit on your side, other than the Blue Mountain Commando, to your hand and immediately play it. So return a bronze to your hand and immediately play it. But it does state non-relentless. So obviously you can't reuse any relentless cards, and the most common one is the ELVEN Mercenary. You can't keep playing this card over again. Another very common card which allows you to pick up cards is the Decoy. Return a non-gold, non-relentless unit on your side to your hand, add 3 to its base strength and immediately replay it, then banish self. So again, this card allows you to pick up cards, but if it's relentless, you can't do it. So another card for Squirtle, which has a slightly different interaction with picking cards up off the board, is the gold card MILVA for Squirtle. So return the strongest non-gold, non-relentless unit, except self, on your side to your hand. Your opponent does the same if they have not yet passed. Ties are resolved randomly. So it does state again non-relentless, so if it's relentless it can't pick it up. So when you play her, it finds the strongest non-gold unit on the opponent's side and the strongest non-gold unit on your side and puts them back into their respective player's hand. Now the tricky thing is, if your strongest non-gold unit is relentless, it will just skip over it and go to the next highest. Okay? So a common card which is relentless that this could affect is the Operator. If the Operator is a 100 strength and you play MILVA, so it'll pick up the strongest unit on your side back to your hand, it won't pick up the Operator because it is relentless. Okay, so relentless means it's staying on the board. There's no way to get it back up. So the next tag that I want to discuss is the Fleeting tag. And a card that you'll see a lot which does have the Fleeting tag is Decoy, this one. So Fleeting means when it goes to the graveyard, it's removed from the game instead. It's very important. It's not when it's played, it's when it goes to the graveyard. And that will come into play later on when we look at some more cards. So when it goes to the graveyard, it is removed from the game. Now removing cards from the game has a special terminology as well called banish here. And it actually tells you that it banishes itself in the description. Return a non-gold, non-relentless unit on your side to your hand. Add 3 to its base strength and immediately play it again. Then banish this card. Okay, banish self. So banishing is when it's removed from the game, and fleeting means when it goes to the graveyard, it banishes. Okay. Now there's one exception to this, that you can't replay that card, and that is Nature's Gift. Nature's Gift spawns a base copy of the last non-gold special card played. Okay. So even though Decoy would be banished, this card remembers the last special card played and can play it. That's just a little cravat to say that once you play Decoy, you couldn't play it again. This card can play it again. But this card is also fleeting, and it will banish itself as well. Okay, once you've played this card, it will turn into a Decoy and it will banish itself. So there's quite a few cards in the game which have the Fleeting tag, and one of them is the Operator that we looked at earlier. Remember, it's also relentless, which means that it can't be picked up off the board. And fleeting means, obviously, when it goes to the graveyard, it'll get removed from the game. So it is very important that it's when it goes to the graveyard. So you can play this on the board and it's 8 strength. And, you know, when it dies or at the end of the round, it'll go to the graveyard and get removed from the game. Banished. Banished when removed from the graveyard, it says. But if you adrenaline rush it to keep it on the board, then it obviously won't get banished until it does go to the graveyard as well. So another common rule for fleeting cards is that most units which are really small that spawn from other units are generally fleeting. So the Fire Elemental is a great example. It's just a normal card, has no tags, but the little minions it spawns every turn are fleeting. And there's a lot of cards like this, golems, the VRIHEDD Vanguard which spawns neophytes as well. So the next tag we're looking at is the Devourer tag, and what this means is that this unit absorbs another unit's strength. Okay, so this Ekimara, for example, destroy a non-gold unit on your side and absorb its strength. The Devourer tag just gives you the indication that it's going to be destroying a unit from somewhere and absorbing its strength. This has benefits for things like the ARACHAS Behemoth that we looked at a moment ago. Spawn an ARACHAS whenever a Devourer on your side absorbs strength, so it has to have that tag and do that type of action for this to spawn. Now, since we're talking about Devourers, the Ghoul is another Devourer. Banish a random non-gold unit from either graveyard and absorb its strength. Okay, so it devours the card from the graveyard, absorbing that unit's strength. Now, we talked also about banishing. Banishing a card means that it gets removed from the game. The Ghoul, and if ever you consume a card from the graveyard, it will get removed from the game. It generally goes, if you devour a card from the board, it goes to the graveyard. If you devour a card from the graveyard, it gets banished. Okay, hopefully this is not too much to be taken in. I'll do a recap at the end of the video. The next tag that we want to talk about is the breedable tag on this little harpy egg down here. Okay, breedable means that specifically monster nests can create more copies of it. Now, I believe breedable is only available to monsters at the moment, and it's generally to the small things that can be come out of other things, like we talked Fire Elemental, ARACHAS Behemoth, lesser golems and stuff. Okay, so breedable on the harpy egg. So specifically, breedable units are affected by the monster nest card here for monsters only. Spawn 3 base copies of a breedable unit on your side of the battlefield. Okay, so you have a breedable unit on the battlefield, you target it with monster nest and it will create 3 base copies of it. Base copies being very important because it tells you that if you buff them, it won't copy the buff over. The next tag, one of the very important tags, is the permadeath tag. This means that this card cannot be resurrected from the graveyard, although it is still in there. Now, you may be thinking, what's the difference? If I can't resurrect it, why do I need it in there? And we'll come across that in a moment. So, for example, the Priestess of Freya, while it can resurrect a bronze non-permadeath unit. This means that it can resurrect units from the graveyard that are bronze, quite standard really, but you can't resurrect another Priestess of Freya or anything with the permadeath tag. And it will generally tell you there as well. So you can't do Priestess, resurrect a Priestess, resurrect a Priestess, resurrect a unit. And that's generally what the permadeath there is for, to stop a massive, stupidly long chain of reses, which we had to, we did have to go through this quite a bit during the closed beta. We had to work through these kinks. People found out massive chains, and that's why we have permadeath today, kids. So every medic has the permadeath tag, so again, you can't chain medics, but there are also some other cards which have permadeath because they're considered too strong to reuse several times. One of such example is Villain Trettenmirth, a 4 strength gold that's a neutral. After 3 turns, destroy the strongest non-gold unit twice in a row. So it was a very powerful card, and in order to stop you demoting it and resurrecting it, they slapped the permadeath tag on it. So this is a one-time use. You can't resurrect this card. Now, I spoke about not too long ago about the Priestess of Freya having permadeath, but not being able to be resurrected. So what is the point of it being in the graveyard at all? Why not make it fleeting? And the reason is this card here. Things like Madman Lugos here. After 2 turns, gain 1 strength for each unit in your graveyard. When removed, set to base strength of 4, even when locked. So effectively, this card counts the number of units in your graveyard and gains that amount of strength. So it's very important that you don't just slap fleeting on everything. Having units in the graveyard is still very important for things like Madman Lugos and things like the Ghoul that we mentioned earlier, where you banish a random non-gold unit in either graveyard and absorb its strength. So, you know, you consume a unit in the graveyard. You could consume the Priestess of Freya, which was 1 to 3 strength, which is generally a bad thing, but that's good. If you're playing Skellige and the Ghoul consumes a Priestess, that's a good thing for you, because then it hasn't consumed something which is way, way stronger for you and banished that from the game. Now, there's a lot of other tags in the game. There's quite an awful lot. The ones that I've gone over already are generally the main ones, which they don't tell you about. There are some other ones. Some of them don't do anything yet. Some of them have only minor effects and, you know, stuff like that. So I'm going to go through these a lot more quicker. The Wild Hunt Riders and several Wild Hunt units have the Wild Hunt tag. This is effectively only for Nithral. This card here. Gain weather immunity, remove 2 strength from a random opposing non-gold unit whenever a Wild Hunt unit appears. So some units have the Wild Hunt tag, and he will just do damage when Wild Hunt appears. Maybe in the future that'll get more developed, but for now it's just for this card. We've got cards with the Dwarf tag. So all the dwarfs for Scoia'tael have the Dwarf tag. Add 1 strength to all your other non-gold dwarf units wherever they are. So this card, Barclay Owls, buffs all your dwarfs, so having the Dwarf tag means they get buffed. And there's a whole Scoia'tael archetype around dwarfs, and this is what that indicates. We've got Malena with the Elf tag. Remove 1 strength from a random opposing non-gold unit whenever a non-ambush elf appears on your side. So Elf is also a very common type of card in Scoia'tael, and she'll do damage based on the number of elves appearing. So a tag which actually has quite a bit of use on several cards is the Machine tag. Now this is mostly used in Northern Realms, although Skellige have a few machines but have no actual use for it yet. Northern Realms have cards which are machines, and these are generally their siege equipment. Reinforced siege towers, reinforced trebuchets, ballistas, trebuchets, these types of things. Okay, this tells you just what type of card it is. It's a machine. And the card that really benefits from this is the Northern Realms card, KAEDWENI Siege Expert here. 4 strength, Northern Realms only. Like I mentioned, Skellige have some machines with the war longships, but really don't have any synergy at all. If they can steal one of these, then they will get some, but add 3 strength to each non-gold machine played on your side. So if you want to know whether a card is a machine, you have to look at in the tags and see if it's a machine. But the general gist is any form of like siege equipment or you know, man-made objects like war machines and stuff. Okay, so for Scoia'tael faction you have cards with the tag of Ambush, and this means that the card is placed face down. If it's face down, it is practically invincible to most things apart from one until it is revealed. Revealed means it will flip over and you'll be able to see it. Now, depending on how it flips over, it depends on whatever its trigger is. There's several different types of ambush cards. This one, for example, flips over after 2 turns. After 2 turns, reveal. When it's revealed, then it can start getting affected by stuff, but when it's face down, it's pretty much invincible apart from 1 card. So that exception is MORENN. She's also a Scoia'tael only card. Destroy an unrevealed ambush card and gain 4 strength. So this is the only card in the game so far that can interact with an unrevealed ambush card, one that is face down. When it gets revealed, anything else can deal with it. And they get revealed for several different ways after 2 turns that we just saw, when one person has passed, when both players have passed, after someone's played a special card into it, etc. The ambush cards placed face down and are practically invincible apart from this one exception. We have cards like CYNTHIA for a variety of factions. She has the Mage tag, has no use as of yet. We have cards like GERALT here, which have the Witcher tag. Now, this previously used to do something where they got extra benefit from potions, but currently have no effect either. But in the future, may have an effect. Cards like Saskia have the Dragon tag, has no effect as of yet. We've got cards like Vernon Roach have the Blue Stripes tag, also has no effect yet. We've got several cards in the monster faction mostly, this one is neutral, that has the Vampire tag. This again has no use as of yet, but may do in the future. Eglaze has a Dryad tag, which again has no use. Any special card in the game has the tag of special. Quite self-explanatory really, it's a special card, so it has a special tag. Some cards like Swallow Potion, Thunderbolt Potion have the Potion tag. This used to do extra value to witches, but no longer does, so at the moment it is unused. Weather cards have the weather tag. It's just there. It tells you it's a weather card, so it's going to affect a certain row and set them all down to 1, I suppose. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning about tags and the different types of terminology in Gwent the Witcher card game. They will be bringing in a keyword system, which will hopefully make it a bit easier for you to understand tags in the future. But let's go over the biggest 6 tags. There's only a few. There's 3 really big ones, and then a couple of other big ones too. So fleeting means that when it goes to the graveyard, it's removed from the game instead, which follows on to banish, which is the second one. When it's removed from the game, it's banished. Okay, that's a type of terminology. You've got relentless, means that when it's placed onto the board, it can't be picked up in any way. It's stuck onto that board. You've got permadeath, which means it can't be resurrected from the graveyard in any way. You've got ambush cards, which means they're played face down and are pretty much invulnerable until they're revealed, which means they're flipped over. With the exception to be Morenn, which can attack those. And the 6th one is breedable, which means that monster nests can create more copies of this unit. Okay, I think that was 6. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if that was 6. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you the next time, hopefully. Take care, everyone.